1973, the Hostel Association got permission to make a trail. And so they made a trail, not this one, but it ended up that I discovered the old telephone line that went from Canmore to Boundary Cabin. Don Gardner. Don Gardner was hired by the Hostel Association with the permission of the government to cut a cross-country ski trail so at Ribbon Creek. So this is what he did. He was doing it, which it ended up being what we now call Troll Falls Trail. And it came below what I now call my trail, and everybody else does. So it came below on the lower level, and then my trail came up from the hill. The first time I was at Assiniboine, we backpacked in from the end of Spray Lake with the hostel group, probably about 1968. So we went as a group, a hostel group, and while we were in there, one of the guys said, "Why don't we go over and visit Lizzie for tea?" And I'd never met Lizzie, didn't really quite know who she was. And I said, "But I don't have any money." "Oh, you don't have to pay money for tea at Lizzie's." "Oh, I couldn't go if I don't have money." So I wouldn't go because I didn't have money to pay her for tea. I didn't get to go over to see her, and none of the rest of the group did either. But eventually I ended up, I don't quite know how I did that. I ended up running Eisenhower Hostel, now called Castle Mountain Hostel. Yes. I ended up there because I left, I couldn't stay at Spray River. And so I ended up at Castle Mountain Hostel, which then was called Eisenhower. And we nicknamed it Ike Inn. Pretty well the bottom. Yeah, it wasn't part way up Castle. It was at the bottom, where it is today. A little fancier, though. Somehow or other, I ended up being able to cook at Assiniboine. And I got that. Yeah, through Marg Moser. I ended up doing just relief cooking for about 3 weeks at the Bugaboos.
Cool.
Not Assiniboine, the Bugaboos. And Lizzie looked after the hostel for me while I went into the Bugaboos. And she had her friend, the teacher, kind of help her out. But she spoiled the hostlers. The hostlers were supposed to do a hostel duty. And I used to give them out a little piece of paper. I had typed a list of all the different hostel duties. And everybody who stayed in the hostel got a little duty. Lizzie spoiled them all, and she did their duties. But she said she had nothing else to do. Because she wasn't a young lady, she was over 70. And so she didn't do the athletic things. She didn't have the health to do that, arthritis and stuff like that. The changes came later, beyond my time. And because at the time that I was there, the Hostel Association didn't have a lot of money. And so they couldn't do a lot of things. but they gradually started making changes in the hostels, which were quite good. Quite a number of the hostelers got married and had kids. And when they had kids, they would come and spend more time at the hostel. And by then, at some point, I went to Ribbon Creek, and then they built, about 1970, they started building a little bit more at Ribbon Creek. So there was family rooms built for accommodating these people. Yeah, it was interesting because it really helped develop part of the hostels, and yet they were doing it because it was advantageous to them as a family.